Start. Can we have the roll call, please?
Mrs. Grant.
Here.
Mr. Plum.
Here.
Mrs. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Edwards.
Here. Have an approval of the agenda. Well, do we have any changes?
Second. I'll second. I just did.
Yeah.
Oh.
You
You put it the first.
All right, you're all right. You mean the.
Don't worry.
Asking for a second. Moved by Israel, seconded by Jean. I will.
Mr. Plum.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Grant.
Yes.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes. Last board meeting from October 15th. Have anybody that'd like to approve it?
I'm approving.
Moved by Dora,
Second.
seconded by Jean. The roll, please.
Mrs. Grant.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Plum.
Yes.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes. I don't see any public participation, so we'll move on to that. Sponsors report, do you have anything from Ed?
No, he didn't give me anything for the board meeting itself. I think back from our sponsor meeting last week, the annual sponsor report is now no longer showing up as a requirement at the center. But I told Margaret that I was gonna go ahead and update it anyways by the end of the month, just to do it with normal practice. Beyond that,
I was surprised to see Mrs. Keegan. Was going to, that they're opening up things for a new treasurer.
the treasurer, yeah,
When is she finished?
I think whenever they have a replacement.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was supposed to close at the end of October, so they should be in June.
I think they're in the interview process right now.
Okay.
I think they had the second interview, I'd like 2 or 3. But. Yeah, I think she's gonna, because I was surprised with the whole building and stuff, I thought she would want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
But I guess she's going to oversee things and stuff, I guess, so. It's good for Margaret, I think.
They announced that our baby.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's fun.
so. Does anybody else have any reports from the board? Nope. Nothing at this time, how about the treasurer's report?
The first, just a couple of informational items. As the ESSER grant closes out, they are issuing monitoring reviews. This is the same as our grant audits that we get in the springtime. We did get pulled for one. They let us know last week. We've already uploaded all of the information, which was pretty quick. I'm hoping that they get back to us pretty quickly for that reason, because we also received notice that our financial audit is to start a little early this year. They got a hold of me. So I hope that the ESSER one closes out before that one gets going. I also had some conversations with Savista. They reached out to me because about every 60 to 90 days, our MMA rate typically expires. So they let me know what our new rate's going to be. They had let us know last year that they wouldn't be able to hold us at 5. So we did come down to 4.5. We have that rate locked in through January 19th. In comparison, they said their best rate for business MMAs right now is 3.85. So they are holding us pretty well above that, and they're not too far off of Star Ohio. Star Ohio has also fallen down to about 4.8 or 4.85. So interest rates are down across the board.
Is that a money market account or something like that?
Yes.
We can talk about it.
Yeah. Our MMAs are money markets. Are there any questions over that?
That's pretty good.
Next, we can go ahead and skip past their minutes. First, we have our cash reconciliation. You can see we ended the month of October with $10,958,920.11. Following the cash reconciliation, we have our disbursement summary. There wasn't anything that I felt jumped out as abnormal, but just a couple of notes on the second page of the disbursement summary. About 2/3 of the way down, you'll see to the Erie County Sheriff's Office, we paid $6,182.59. I just wanted to remind everybody, if that looks high, that's because we are paying the full amount and then I'm billing Marta for 50%. So you'll see that amount stay high throughout the year, and then we will then get reimbursed after.
What are they?
I bill each time we get a bill and they follow up with a check not long after, so. It's not like we wait till the end of the year to.
Comes in once a year.
On the third page, the three at the bottom, so we have two payments to the relevant speakers network. That was the student speaker that Ryan had brought in. It was in the form of music, right, a band. I saw a pretty interesting Facebook video involving Mr. Bone.
We were very interactive that day. It was a blast. The Attaboy was the group. They came there from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they do assemblies at a lot of different schools. And, you know, they tie in a positive message about acceptance, you know, just confidence in who you are. And that comes across really well through their music and the way they connect with kids. And they have interactive parts of the show where the kids are part of it. They asked for staff participation, nobody raised their hand, I was up there, yes, I was up there, so the kids could have a great time laughing at me. But we had a fun time, we turned the cafeteria into a concert area, the back end was where the band was set up. And it was amazing how much equipment they brought in from their trailer, I mean, it was like loads of stuff. And we brought chairs over from next door, rearranged our furniture so that, you know, it was more conducive to a concert setting, and for about an hour they played, and kids just had an absolute blast. They connected, and I just really think it helped our students really bond with each other and the school, and just have a really good positive feeling about school in general.
And you said about over 100 kids.
Yeah, we were close to 100 kids, yeah.
You need to go on Facebook and see Mr. Bone in heavy metal mode.
Oh, heavy metal.
I had to lip sync, and then I had to play some air guitar, so.
Well, you had a guitar in your hand, but it might have been a Guitar Hero.
Yeah, the guitar here.
I saw.
Rocket.
Anything to give kids.
I think that should go on the website for those of us who aren't.
Who was the other one that was playing the guitar or something?
Oh, Mr. Chang.
That was Tim Moore.
Okay.
Okay, Tim Moore.
He was really.
Yeah. He was-
So did you get an attaboy?
I guess.
The final item on that page from Michael Gilbert, that was the speaker that came into Pontifex to speak to our Fremont students as well. Any questions over the disbursement summary? Okay, for the outstanding disbursement summary, so these were all of the outstanding items at the end of October, but you will see almost all of them have since been reconciled. I think we only have about 3 left outstanding, so we are pretty well caught up. Next, we can move on to our monthly spreadsheet. So as we talked about last month, when we looked at our monthly payment, the October payment was significantly lower. That's because our average daily membership was significantly lower. That's our enrollment count with our attendance factored in. So our overall revenue in that top right section came in at about 94.63% of what we had anticipated it being. The nice thing is that when we underestimate our interest investment and we overestimate the expenses at the top, it does help us equal out a little bit. So we are still at 95% of revenue, and we would expect to be at about 33.33% at this time. So as of right now, we're still okay. We'll continue to discuss this as the year goes on. We're going to take a look at our November payment, talk about some numbers here in a couple minutes, but as of October, our revenue still looks okay. Expense wise, in the bottom left, we are at 29.70% of budgeted expenses. So again, we're below that 33.33%, which is good. Capital outlays, 1 of 2 that are sitting high. You'll see other objects is just slightly above. Again, these are because we pay large bills at once. Capital outlay was the parking lot. Other objects is our liability insurance, so we have those large expenses up front, but we'll continue to see that even out throughout the year as we go on. And then at the very bottom left, you'll see the FTE comparison. So October was at 359.82, whereas September had us at 397.29. So that's where that difference in payment comes in. Any questions over the spreadsheet? Okay, next we have our foundation payment for November. Now, the November payment, the monthly payment itself was significantly higher. And our overall projection for the year is also higher, however, there's a very important caveat here. So if you look under the annual amount column. And you go down 4 to disadvantaged pupil impact aid, you will see our annual projection at $409,689. Last month, that was at $146,000. So that has over doubled. Now, that money is a good thing. However, DPIA funding is restricted funding. There are very specific uses. They overlap with some of the student wellness fund uses, which is challenging for us because we were already trying to compensate for those past years where those student wellness funds didn't get spent. We were working really hard to get those spent. Now we have a much higher amount of DPIA funds to also consider. And we do report on that at the end of the year. That's not one of the restricted funding that doesn't get reported on. I do track this and report it at the end of the year. So this is going to take some consideration on how can we meet that, how can we spend those funds, how can we still spend the student wellness and success funds. So yes, it is great that those increase, but it does come with challenges as well. Now, those went up because we are part of the CPE lunch program this year. We changed lunch programs and now we have a greater portion of economically disadvantaged students, which is why we saw that number jump. So because that annual amount has gone up so much, that monthly amount not only went up, but I think it also played catch up from what it should have been the past few months. So in October, our monthly disadvantaged pupil impact aid was, I believe, 10,800 around there. And so to play catch up, it was 111,000. So that's why that monthly payment looks very high compared to last month's. Our overall funding did go up, but not by a crazy amount. Our base cost for the year went down. Our student wellness for the year went down. Our equity supplement went down, and our facilities funding also went down. So while that disadvantaged pupil impact aid jumped very high, we have other numbers that are continuing to come down, and I do think that's important to know.
So would it be helpful for us to have a list of what those restrictions are?
The DPIA funds,
Mhm.
yeah, so we've looked at if you recall, there was a chart previously that had student wellness funds from these years. And then DPI, but they have updated that since, so I could send that out and give everyone kind of a summary of the allowable uses. One of the uses that did stand out to me, and I printed it out so I can remember. The employment of bright new leaders for Ohio, which includes salary and benefits to employ a bright new leader as a principal or assistant principal, is an allowable use of DPIA funds. So something for us to keep in mind as we explore that position. The next page, we have our October payment, just as a reminder, and you'll see those amounts that we just discussed. The DPIA funds at 146 and 10,857 for the month. Next, I have the 2 summary payments where we can see the annual amounts. November's was at $5,729,956. October's had us at about 5.5 million. So a difference of about 220,000, but again, those DPIA funds came up almost 250,000. So. Does anybody have any questions over our foundation payments? Okay, next I did do the funding charts again, just so we can continue to keep an eye on this. First, we have our ADM. We talked about how last year in October, we had an outlier because the attendance was reported incorrectly. So that spike wasn't accurate and we didn't want to look at that as an accurate data point. And we were hoping that from the October data point of this year that was significantly lower, that we were going to see an increase in November. We did not see that. Our November ADM was actually a little bit lower at 355. So again, I just have some concerns there with our ADM coming down significantly. Last year, our lowest ADM was 390.84, so we are significantly under that. I don't think our enrollment is a crazy amount lower, correct me if I'm wrong, so I don't know if this is more an attendance percentage thing, but definitely something we should consider as we look at, what can we do to fix this, what can we do to improve this going forward. On the next page, we do have the total projected revenue. Now this is after the paybacks. So these numbers are a little bit lower than what we just looked at because I'm factoring in what we're paying back to the ODE. November does come up slightly from October, but we are sitting a little bit lower than where we were this time last year. Finally, the last chart is the actual monthly payment amount. Again, November did come up quite a large amount, but with the DPIA funds, there was a little bit of a catch up there. So higher than where we were at last year in November for a monthly payment, but our overall projection is still coming in under. Any questions over the funding charts? Okay. Next, we have our 5-year forecast. So I like to start with just some of the assumptions that I made in this before we dive into the numbers. I like to kind of lay them out. So a couple of things that are assumed in here is that steps and a 1% raise were obviously applied in fiscal year 25. Steps are applied in fiscal year 26 and 27 with no raise to the base. Fiscal year 28, there are steps and a 1% raise to the base, and then just steps again in fiscal year 29. I do use the contracted amounts that are based on our established pay scale. It is also assumed that there will be a replacement for the student success plan coordinator following fiscal year 25, which is Charlene, who's retiring in December, as well as an addition of another one-to-one special education paraprofessional during fiscal year 25. So we just recently posted that. I was able to include that in this. It's also assumed that there will be a new administrator in fiscal year 26, which is in case we choose to hire a principal. A new teacher in fiscal year 27, because we typically have conversations about needing intervention specialists. No new additions in 28 or 29. And I also attempted to account for potential teacher horizontal shifts on the pay scale. So what that means is if we have a teacher who is typically younger and earlier on in their career and they're at bachelor's step 2, I like to account for, hey, in the next 4 years, do we think they might be in master's? I'd rather account for that expense and not have it surprise us and just have it be in there. And then if we come in under, great. If not, we're at least prepared for it. So I do try and anticipate those things. Also, just a reminder that this does include all of our grant and general fund expenses, and then you'll also see the grant reimbursement included on here. Under capital outlay, we have a $35,000 contingency in case of any emergency, and then we also have a $125,000 allotment to keep replenishing our Chromebooks. They have started categorizing bundled purchases that are over $5,000 as capital assets. So previously it was just that the item itself was over $5,000. Now it's a bundled purchase. So that's why you find those under capital outlay instead of supplies. And then I also wanted to note that under other debt, we used to put our state foundation paybacks to the ODE there. I've started just taking them out of our total revenue at the top because that's how we see it. We don't see it as an expense, we just see it as a reduction of revenue. So that's how I put it in the 5-year forecast. And then finally, the last assumption is that there's a 15% increase in health premiums each year. So that increase is accounted for. Now last year we received a reduction, that was phenomenal. And a couple years before that, we've received lower increases. So again, hopefully that does happen. But if not, if we do see a higher increase, we're prepared for it. We have that accounted for. An important note of fiscal year 25. If you go about halfway down the fiscal year 25 column, you see the federal grants reimbursement at $1,200,000. Now we anticipated our federal grant reimbursement for this year coming down quite significantly, but a lot of this reimbursement is actually from fiscal year 24. So when you close out your grants at the end of the year, sometimes those project cash requests, the receipts to reimburse them come in fiscal year 25. So they end up showing up in your fiscal year 25 reimbursement. We also were able to keep spending ESSER funds through the beginning of September. So we've already been we were reimbursed this year for about $400,000 for ESSER. So that's why you see that number still a little bit higher. Next year, we should see that come down, and you'll see that in the projection, we have it at about 600,000, so significantly lower. The nice thing is that for this year, we do have a good amount of revenue over our expenses. So you saw that our cash reconciliation for the end of October had us close to 11 million. Our bank account, we are projected to come in over 11 million. So we are in a good place there. The principal is not factored into fiscal year 25. If we were at some point to hire during the year, you could factor in for about half the year, about a $75,000 expense. So again, with our projections for fiscal year 25, in no way would that break the bank for this year. It is factored into fiscal year 26, and you can see fiscal year 26, again, we are still balanced with revenue over expenses at about $279,750. And then you see it start to decrease as our health premiums continue to go up, we continue to give steps, costs go up. So that does then put us in a deficit in fiscal year 28 and 29. I do attempt to keep, as treasurers do, I do try and keep this conservative, so. I put our interest income pretty conservatively. Now, as rates come down, that might not seem so conservative. We'll see how that goes for the rest of this year. We might adjust that in May. We did add some things under purchase services, so you'll see our fiscal year 25 purchase services are significantly higher than last year's. We have the full year of Career Coach Edition. We have some higher speech costs with replacing our speech programs. I do tend to budget our legal costs a little bit high, just in case. They came in quite under last year. They came in at about, I think, 25,000. I budgeted them at about 50. Our federal grants, sometimes we budget a little bit high for purchase services because we don't always know how much tuition reimbursement we're gonna have, how many professional development requests we're gonna have. So I prefer to budget a little bit higher and then be pleasantly surprised if it comes in under. We also have a little bit higher mileage. We have a little bit higher rent with the new location, and we had some insurance increases. Any questions on this? Anything you want me to clarify with the
Or use what payment.
I believe we go through fiscal year 31. Does that sound right? Okay. I can double check that and send that in an email, but I think it's fiscal year 31.
I'm positive it's at least 30.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
It's 30.
I think it was 30, and then as our payment came down a little bit over certain years, it went into fiscal year 31. I think so.
Is there a total amount though that you have a running total on?
Yeah, so it's actually on the second page. You'll see the beginning year balance, what we're gonna pay off over this year, and then what we'll end this year at. Now, this can change because in January, they do recalculate those payments, and some things they fluctuate then, they might change our payback amount in January. But if we continue paying the amount that we're paying right now through this year, that's what we'll pay back, and then that's what the balance will be.
Fiscal year 23-24, is that right?
Oh, no, sorry, I missed that one. Yep. Apologies, that's my mistake. Thanks, Ryan.
So that, that's our beginning, 2 million plus is our beginning,
Of the year balance.
and then the principal retirement is
What we,
500,000.
yep, that's what we'll pay back over the course of this year.
There's interest free debt too, then?
Yes.
So, since you paying off earlier.
Especially not when our investments are earning us interest, you know, it doesn't make sense to get rid of those funds, we might as well let them earn us money.
Money working for us.
We like, great,
So your overall assessment of our 5-year forecast is,
I think our bank balance is healthy, and I think even if we would go into fiscal years 28 and 29 at a slight deficit, if you look at our overall balance, we can sustain it. But I do think our goal should be to increase enrollment prior to those years. If we are going to make the hires that I projected, if we're going to add positions, things like that, I do think we see an increase in either attendance percentage or enrollment. Ideally both, that would be great. But for sustainability purposes, as we look at expenses and as we look at the grant reimbursements coming down, I do think we need to see that increase. I know we have seen an increase in Lorraine, like we are seeing a little bit of a population growth there. But our overall ADM at the moment is not showing that, so I think we need that ADM number, that total enrollment with the attendance factor, then we need to see that number come up.
thank you, that's some hard work.
My last item, item E, resolve that the board of directors of Townsend Community School approves the capitalized and non-capitalized list of items to be disposed of / recycled as presented. This list comes from Dave. I would like to give Dave a huge shout out. He's working so hard at cleaning up our technology and consolidating things and He's just working so hard in the tech department, and he is so patient with his treasurer, who tends to be extremely meticulous and sometimes makes him wait as she pulls old invoices from 15 years ago, so. I would just really like to commend him, I think he's doing a great job, he's doing a good job staying up on the recycling. And he's very patient, so,
This was impressive.
yes, but this was
I
Dave.
went through it, I was just curious, you know, like,
Yeah.
if I should be, but I was like, oh my gosh, is it this much
Yeah,
scrolling and yes.
so I specifically requested that we had like the serial numbers on there so that I could go back to old invoices and see what was paid for through a grant and make sure we were following procedures, so I asked a lot of him. And as you can see, he did a great job,
Kudos.
he did a great job, he does a great job keeping track of inventory with me. Works with me on the grants with those kinds of things, and I think we've come a long way in terms of our inventory, because we didn't used to have much of a formal system.
All this stuff predates Kelsey, right, so we had to dig in. Fine.
Yeah. Well, when you look at the years,
Right,
you know that,
Right.
and
And we're out of closet space, so the stuff needs to go.
well, thank you, David.
You're welcome. I appreciate your work.
Yeah, there's a lot of phones, right? Was that what?
so the big list of phones is actually like the desk phones.
Yeah, that's what I was.
You guys actually approved that in the spring, but then Kelsey realized those were capitalized, so we had to get all the serial
Because
numbers and all
Yeah.
that stuff, so that's why the delay.
Those are actually still on our list of capital assets. A lot of those things that may have been capitalized at one point have fallen off because they've depreciated far enough. Now, those phones are fully depreciated, but they're still on my capital asset spreadsheet. And so I wanted to do another, just to be thorough, just to be sure.
Boxes and boxes.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, where are they? In my closet, like.
There's been so much,
That's,
but
I complain about the closet space.
so much that just had to sort through, honestly. So.
I'm back in the kitchen area too, computers and stuff, I have no space. But this stuff is all very, as far as things.
Great, is that everything?
Everything.
Everybody would like to approve the treasurer's report.
Um,
I'll second.
Moved by Dora. Second by Israel, the roll.
Mrs. Graham,
yes.
Mr. Palumbo,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, item A under informational items is a review of our current enrollment data. Take a look at the breakdown here in your folder. You can see how we compare now in comparison to the last 12 months. This was as of early Monday morning. The total enrollment at that time is 492 students, plus 19 graduates to this point this year. We had a nice jump of 11 graduates this past month, which was good to see. So if you combine those, the total number is 511 students, but the enrollment as of right now is 492 students. As Kelsey said, we're seeing a gradual increase in Lorraine County. You're getting more referrals from other schools. It's good to see the growth there. At the same time, we are also still seeing some students getting withdrawn due to inactivity, which some of those do re-enroll with us. We're also seeing students here and there that do transfer to other schools. So it's kind of balanced out the growth in Lorraine County. And we've really, I mean, when you look at month by month, it's pretty flat, like not any huge jumps up and down in the last 12 months. We're typically right around that 500 number. I'd rather be on the plus side of 500 than the bottom side, but right now we're just a little bit under 500. In terms of Fremont, you know, of course, right now we're at Pontifex. We've had some restroom issues there and just some little things here and there ongoing. I am in conversation with Terra State Community College about the possibility of at some point transitioning over there. I would like to kind of speed that process up, so I'm trying to work with them to make that happen sooner than later. Just because some things we've ran into a few bumps in the road at Pontifex. They've been good to us. There's a lot of positives there. But I think long-term, it's probably better for us, if our students, to be at Terra State Community College and have kind of a similar model to what we're doing at Lorraine Community College. Kids have access to programs there, whether it be through CCP during high school or post high school, post secondary. They have some great short-term programs, manufacturing programs, and then of course the associated degree programs as well, so.
So how is the reception?
They are very interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was there a week ago at the principals and counselors meeting that they have for other area schools, the superintendent was there and he and I spoke, and they were very interested. They like the idea of having more traffic on campus, having those students having exposure to the programs there, which could result in them enrolling at Terra State down the road.
Is the experience that we've had with Lorraine Community College hopeful in terms of approach and what we need to go through with Terra?
Yeah, that was definitely part of my my initial conversation with Terra State, is how we've kind of already established this model with Lorraine Community College, and things are going well. And we'd like to do the same thing.
So when you talk about speed it up, where do you, just guessing what timeline might be?
I'd like to say early January, but realistically, maybe early February.
Okay,
If
that's it.
if both sides can work at the same pace together, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I'd
that
be very
sounds
happy
great.
if we can put it all together by February 1st.
That'd be wonderful.
And it'll take some work with Margaret, our sponsor too, and our contract with them, and doing those revisions. And all the opening assurances, safety plans and all that. There's many steps to the process, but hopefully we can get it done maybe around February.
Actually better off than the pond fix though, shouldn't it?
I think long term, yeah, and they've been great to us, they've been
I
great.
mean, the stuff from Margaretta that
Oh,
they have to go through. Could be better because it already is a school.
about the same process, I would say. So anyways, that was not a necessary discussion item we had listed, but it ties right into our conversation here at the moment. We typically have a holiday staff dinner for our entire staff, and Monday, December 16th is the date we're gonna do that this year. And I allowed the staff to give input as to where they would like the food to be catered from this year, and the last few years, we've had Bone Boys Barbecue, which has been delicious. Staff loved it. That was one of the 3 choices. We also had Olive Garden and Chipotle as 2 other options. So we had a vote by the staff. And it came in initially at a tie, and all 3 were well supported by votes, but there was an initial tie between Olive Garden and Chipotle. So we had to take those who voted for Bone Boys Barbecue and ask them to revote. And by a slim margin, Olive Garden won out. So we're gonna have Olive Garden on December 16th for our staff, and I think they're looking forward to that. Did you? Sorry, we lost.
Those are my people, I'll be thinking bone all day.
Okay, last thing is, there's a letter here in your folder. Janet Cooper shared a letter with me here yesterday in terms of some updates from Reach Success. I'll go ahead and read this out loud. Dear Townsend Community School Board of Directors, as we embark on our 4th year of partnership with Townsend Community School, I wanted to take a moment to reflect on the incredible journey we have shared and express our gratitude for your continued collaboration. Superintendent Ryan Bone has been a remarkable advocate for this partnership and how impactful our combined efforts have been for the students we serve. Together, we have created opportunities that truly change lives. Tim Warwick and newly hired Daniel Patton have done an outstanding job tracking the success of Townsend students. To date, we have documented 480 milestones, such as obtaining employment, career advancement, and enrolling in postgraduate programs. Reach Success has had over 1,000 meaningful engagements with their students. These numbers reflect the commitment and dedication to supporting and your students' educational and career journeys. Reach Success has been able to connect Townsend students with additional resources. We are part of the Good Jobs Challenge with Manufacturing Works and the Lorain County Sector Partnership. Our role in this initiative is to identify individuals interested in manufacturing careers across Huron, Erie, and Lorain counties. We've successfully connected 8 past graduates to our most recent cohort. Our curriculum includes soft skills training and earning the Certified Manufacturing Associate credential. Even more exciting, Tim Ward will soon undergo credential training in Q1 2025 at Lorain Community College, allowing him to teach the CFMGA manufacturing course. A significant development made possible through our positive relationship with the Greater Sandusky Partnership. By mid-year, we'll be able to provide this directly to Townsend. This year, we were excited to connect Emma Maloney from the Greater Cleveland Partnerships pre-apprenticeship program to Townsend. Now Townsend students will be able to access pre-apprenticeships in fields like business, IT, finance, and hospitality. And I'll pause there. The pre-apprenticeship program that we had looked at here, we do have to submit an application to the state to get our design, our program approved, but we plan on doing that. Reach Success has been in partnership with PNC's Fairfax Connection since 2018. And recently we reached out to explore offering virtual financial literacy courses tailored specifically for Townsend students. This initiative will kick off this month when Ben Lewis from PNC customizing the workshops to fit the unique needs of your students. Working alongside Ryan to expand our reach has been a privilege. His diligent efforts to establish Lorain County Community College as a satellite location demonstrate his unwavering commitment to the future students of Townsend graduates. We're excited about supporting students who choose to pursue higher education at LCCC after graduation. Thank you for your unwavering trust in Reach Success, and together we are making a significant impact on the lives of students and families in the community. With gratitude, Janet Coop. So I think it was nice to get a report there and kind of share with the board all the good things that Tim and Danielle, Anna, and the entire Reach Success organization is doing with students. And again, it's not just students who are currently enrolled, it's also our past graduates. And that's important because the state's monitoring schools now. We have to track what our students are doing after graduation. So by us providing services to our past graduates, we're helping them to make sure we're getting them hopefully in a career path that works for them, but also we're getting that data back too that we can then report to the state, which is required. So they're doing a lot of good things for us. Any questions on Reach Success?
Just thank you. I mean, that's very good
Yeah.
to get that kind of information. See those good things happening.
Just consult. Thank you.
So this course, they currently have it, but we're.
Which the manufacturing one,
Yeah,
they're basically putting it together.
Putting
right now.
curriculum
Tim's gonna
together.
have the ability to teach it, whether it be done here or in community college, wherever. There's obviously still some things to work out there, exactly what it looks like, but he's gonna have that capability.
so they're getting better. So they're getting better.
Yeah, they're continuing to evolve what they're doing too.
Right.
Yeah, and they have a lot of great connections that we like when I go to the Huron County Business Advisory Council meeting, which I was at the other day at the Norwalk Fire Station, or like Erie County, like the people in violence for no Reach Success, they're working with Janet, they're working with Tim, and they're working on some of these programs that I just read about. So sometimes they will bring those programs up in front of all the other people at the meetings, and they'll refer to Townsend and Reach Success as we have these great things going, we're starting up. And it's a very good feather in our cap.
Yeah.
When those things come up in the meetings. Okay, moving on to new business, we have a resolution approved, the awarding of high school diplomas, found students upon successful completion of graduation requirements as set forth by the state of Ohio. Again, we have 11 graduates here for this month, which is exciting. Item B is a resolution to approve the following policies as presented. These policies were shared by Amy Goodson's office, specifically Becky Enns, as policies that we needed to review and approve. Policy 204, admission, enrollment and admission policy. Policy 306A, which is model emergency action plan for use of AED. Policy 102, code of ethics and conflict of interest. Policy 106, public records policy and retention schedule. Policy 208, academic prevention and intervention policy. Policy 217, parent involvement policy. Policy 232, career advising policy, and policy 205, which is a homeless student policy. And then finally, item C is a recommendation to accept the retirement of Charlene Marchitek effective December 31st, 2024. Charlene has been a very good and loyal employee for us in 2 different stints, and she just feels that this it's time for her to move on and enjoy the next chapter.
That's the goal, right?
Let's go.
So really grateful to Charlene and happy for her and wish her the best in her retirement. And at this time, I do not anticipate us filling that position. This position was initially created during when we had the ESSER funds. And now we are paying for it out of the general funds. And I think we can take some of the duties that she has been filling and shift those over to the guidance counselor, Leslie Gaynor, and maybe also some of Barb Wood as well.
Good.
That's the final item that I have on our new business.
Discussion or anything about? None. Have a motion to approve action item for the items A through C of the superintendent.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jean, second by Dora.
Mrs. Sun,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Palumbo,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
And best wishes to Sharon.
Yes.
Yes. Do we have any reason to be going into executive session?
That's up to you guys to tell us. If you get that.
I don't think so either.
Okay,
So
all right.
we talked and. So hearing no reason to go into executive session, do we have to wait to adjourn?
So, oh, okay, second.
Moved by Israel. Second by Jean. All in favor?
Aye. 4:42.
That was good. We talked.